Today we're going to discuss measuring for an inside mount application specific to roll shades. The reason why the shade's already installed, it's a good reference point. It's going to help you gain a much better visual understanding of why we measure the way we measure and why certain things are important, why some other things aren't as important. So for starters, first thing you'll need, high quality tape measure. Make sure it is a wide tape that's very strong, very stiff, so you can run it out. Probably a good one. I'm going to run out of room here. Should be able to get out close to about 9-10 feet without it flopping on you. And this is only a 16-footer. 20-footer is probably the best. But for my purposes here today, we don't need anything bigger than this. About $15 to $20 will get you a good quality tape measure, okay? Item number one. Item number two, good sturdy ladder. Something much better than what I have here. Keep in mind I'm only going up a foot, so it's not that important in my case. But make sure you do have a very good quality, substantial, stable ladder for those high windows that you're going to have to measure. You'll certainly need that. So we're going to get started. What I want to do first is talk to you a little bit about inside mount or inside bracket. That means if you are measuring for something inside a space that it must fit within, for example, this window, or if it's in between two walls, if it's a wall-to-wall measurement, make sure that's specified as an inside bracket. That tells us to then make a small deduction on the width measurement that you provide us so that it will actually fit into the space. So the measurements that I provide in this exercise today, I would place an order or specify as inside bracket. The factory knows to make that width 1/8 of an inch narrower, so the system will fit within the space and not be too tight. Okay, it gives you a little bit of room to work with. This is a roll shade that's already been installed. So what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of pretend that it's not here, even though it is. It's a good reference point. So for starters, measuring width, we always do width first, then height. So always measure your width first and always provide that measurement to us first. In this particular instance, there's two different ways to measure that width. I'm going to show you both. One way is to just simply run it across. I'm going to come over this way. Just run it across the width of the window, okay, at the top here, and run it to the edge of the window here. So I've got a measurement. It's just a little bit over 56 3/4, if you can zoom in on that, Eric. It's about 56, a little bit shy of 3/4 or 7/8, a little bit over 3/4. It's about 13/16. I would round that up to 56 7/8, knowing that we're taking 1/8 of an inch off, okay? That's one method. The other method that you may have to use, if it's quite wide, or if you're up on a ladder, is to bend the tape, okay? Get a bend in it, run it across, and that's why it's really a good thing to have good stiff tape measure. Then put this end here closest to you, and then put this end over here and push it up against the wall where you're measuring. Now you have to be careful of that. That shows about a 56 3/4. So this method is usually going to come up just a little bit shy of what your other measurement method provides. So just be keeping that in mind. Again, being an IB, I would certainly go 56 7/8 on the wide side and 56 3/4 on the short side. You need to be right in there, okay, in between those two, one or the other, okay? You only need to measure at the top. As you can see here, this is where the brackets are. It's only important to get a measurement at the top. We don't care about midstream, bottom. Reason why, look at this gap. Okay, we don't care how much this window varies. Well, we do to a certain degree. I'll tell you why. But we certainly don't have to worry about anything rubbing here. Keep this in mind. If you do come across a window that does look a little bit out of whack or warped, bring that to the attention of your client, because the biggest complaint about roll shade systems is the gap. Okay, on our DC powered system, this gap is 7/8. On our AC powered systems, it's 1 inch. On manually operated systems, it's about 3/4 of an inch. But that gap's going to be there. So you need to make sure, if you have a client that's focused on a blackout shade, they need to know there's going to be a gap here. You can address that with side channels, which we'll discuss in another module. But you need to make sure that if, again, there's a huge variance here or something going on with poor drywall, poor framing, something to bring to the attention of your client, because it will, in a lot of instances, be exposed. So that's pretty much how we handle our width measurement. on an inside mount, such as we have, I'm going to discuss the length measurement. Again, the height is adjustable on a roll shade, okay, so we don't need to be too concerned about it. I'm going to measure here in the center, just to kind of give you an idea. And as you can see there, it's just a tad, it's a hair over 58, okay, so I would typically just round that off at 58. And on an AC system, you're going to have to adjust your height when you install the shade anyways. The height is not adjusted from the factory. You're going to have to set the limits on an AC powered system. DC powered system like we have here, the limits are preset from the factory at the length that you give us. And this is about what you want. If you look down here, you can see this gap. You don't want it touching the sill, okay? You don't want it touching the sill anywhere. And you can see the variance in this sill. If I go over here to the right side, it may not necessarily show up because the top may also be a little bit out of whack. And it doesn't really show up here. This shows up at about 58 1/16, very much the same as the center. But you can see your gap variance here, and that's why you want to leave it off a little bit. Otherwise, it's going to kind of high center on the high end of the sill, and then it'll just kind of be doing this swinging thing, okay? So this is ultimately what you want here. So if you're measuring for a DC system, probably take 1/8 of an inch off your measurement. Your shortest sill measurement, take about 1/8 of an inch off, like we have there in the left corner. And then that way, whatever variance here you have at the sill isn't going to cause the shade to get hung up. This is just going to float, as you can see, right across the top of the sill. That really is it for roll shades for inside mount applications or inside bracket applications. Next module we'll get into will be an outside mount application. We will cover that separately.